Shalom, we're here with Israeli newspapers, what Israelis are reading today. We're giving you the first hand of what Israelis are reading, and it is May 30th, the day 237 of the war in Israel. War with Hamas, war with Hezbollah, and also with Judea and Samaria. As we see here, terror in the seam line. The seam line is an expression in Hebrew meaning the line between the territories of the Judea and Samaria where the Palestinian Authority rules and the Jewish side on the west. Terror in the seam line. 2 shooting incidents towards Israeli towns. Otef HaSharon, they're calling it. The envelope of the Sharon area. The Sharon area is the Jewish area, which beyond that is Gush Dan and Tel Aviv area. So it's really in central Israel what happened yesterday, and it's twice in the last week. Here in the background, we see a footage of the video that the terrorists took, the ones who were shooting from Hamas. We'll give a deeper look into it when we open up, but they documented and published the terror attack. More headlines, 3 more soldiers died yesterday. Also, first publication, there's a concerning increase of domestic violence since the beginning of the war in Israel, domestic violence in Israel. I'm turning the page to the first opinion article here. It's the head of the Forum of Palestinian Studies in University Tel Aviv. He's the author, and he's saying Palestinians are in the cycle between being the offenders and being the victims. And they're constantly complaining about the history that is forced on them of being victims. However, they're not realizing that it is their own decisions that is causing them to live in such a life. They're refusing to acknowledge the connection between cause and effect. He's saying, to exemplify this, it is last week's explosion. So many civilians died in the Gaza Strip, but this is not because of the IDF's attack that was very precise towards 2 seniors in Hamas. This is because an explosion of Hamas's ammunition within the civilian population that's embedded there. So this is it. That is the lack of acknowledgement of cause and effect, and them choosing Hamas and having Hamas lead. Here's another opinion article. It's important in my opinion, so we'll read it together. It's about the morals of the IDF, and he's asking here, Yedidia Ya'ari, who was the commander of the Navy of the IDF, he's asking, is the IDF still moral? And he's saying, absolutely yes. It's still holding on to the principle of purity of arms. You say in Hebrew, tohar haneshek, purity of arms. And I'll read a key sentence here. Is the IDF still holding on to the principle of purity of arms? He says, as an army, as a group, despite the destruction, despite mistakes, and thousands of Gaza citizens that are killed, the answer is yes. But as individuals, it's hard to say. It's hard to tell if every individual is holding on to the purity of arms and is very, very moral. He says, and as the length of the fighting is continuing, becoming longer and longer, almost 8 months and more, it will continue, it is harder to hold on to the purity of arms. But he's saying, as a group, the IDF is very moral, and it has been fighting in a very difficult location, in a very dense area with a lot of innocent civilians, and this is after a massacre. So when individual soldiers are coming in, they know what these people did to their own brothers and sisters. So it's a very difficult situation, but his answer is yes, the IDF is very moral. So it was important for me to read that to you. Next, the headline here. We are the envelope of Tel Aviv and Netanya. This is the problem of all of you. And this is an article because of, this is a headline. After yesterday's shooting incident, it's twice in 1 week that Bat Hefer, a Jewish town in the central of Israel, was shot at from the Judea and Samaria area. Because as we see here, Bat Hefer is just in the seam line between the Palestinian authorities and the Jewish side. It's very, very narrow. It's just above Tel Aviv. And yesterday there was another shooting to Ganer. Ganer is also on the seam line. So they're saying they're calling it the terror of the seam line, Tachat Esh Belev Haaretz, under fire in the central of Israel, shooting to 2 Jewish towns in the Sharon and Gilboa in a few hours just yesterday. And I'm reading here, the shooting yesterday towards these two Jewish towns did not surprise the Jewish residents there that have been dealing with these kinds of incidents since the outbreak of the war on October 7th. But in the Sharon area, they're worried from a scenario of penetrating, from Palestinian terrorists penetrating their towns like they did in the Gaza envelope. The concern of these seam-line towns is all the same concern. And they're saying we need more security. We need a security band that will protect us from Tulkarem and the area, the Palestinian area, and from our own homes that are just meters away from a very flimsy, thin fence. In the video that they themselves published, the terrorists are having the green Hamas band around their head, and they are shooting towards the Jewish area. The cartoon today is related to this. Here we are, a support group, therapy group, with a little coffee and tea behind. And it says, the support group for the evacuees from the north and the south of Israel, right? And he's coming in, a new one, saying, my name is Eli, and I'm from Bat Hefer, the town that was just shot at. Ohavim otcha Eli, we love you, Eli. So Eli is the new one from the center of Israel, from central Israel, joining the evacuee support group. Next, about the soldiers that had fallen yesterday, Hagiborim, the heroes that will not return. Ido Appel, 21-year-old from Tzofar. Tzofar is in the south part of Israel, and he's the third soldier from his age group in that little town of just 400 people living there. He lost two of his friends a few weeks ago, and he is the third yesterday. Amir Galilov, 20 years old from Shimshit. Hayeled Hanadiv, the very generous kid that also in his own life, in his own death, saved lives, it says. Ori Bar Or, 21 years old, from Midreshet Ben Gurion, that's in the south. He was a very gifted composer that enlisted to serve as a fighter. And here Bar Or, here he is getting a kiss from his mom. So as the war is continuing, it is just, we see the fallen soldiers are continuing to fall as well. May their memory be blessed. This two-pager is about the finances and about businesses in the north, in Israel, that are crashing. Some of them are desperate, others are hopeful, but let's take this one. For example, this is Tirza. She's the head of a tzimmer complex, tzimmer like a guest room complex, and she says, I'm crashing financially. Since October 7th, the tzimmerim are empty. And she says, I'm completely desperate because we have no help, we have no aid from the government because we are 4.5 kilometers away from the border with Lebanon. And the government helps only towns that are up to 4 kilometers away, but she is 4.5 kilometers away, so she's missing 500 meters. Here's a wonderful, very well-known bakery in Amy Zivan, and he says, actually, we're quite calm here and quite safe, but people are not coming. Israelis are not coming, tourists are not coming. Usually there's long lines to eat these wonderful croissants, but it's all empty because people think it's dangerous here. So he's in this little pocket of nice calm area, but he's in the north, so it's considered dangerous all in all. The subheadline reads that these places are just a few months ago were must-visit places full of visitors in beautiful northern Israel, but in the last months, these very successful businesses have become empty and desolate, and they're trying to survive. The condition is very depressing, but still there are some that have not lost hope. I really hope they do make it. To end, before Jerusalem Day that's coming up, Jerusalem is going to celebrate 57 years to her liberation and reunification. There's a magazine here called Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, Kan Ve'achshav, here and now. We see the photograph, the Tower of David museum that has been renovated. It's beautiful. This whole magazine is about Jerusalem, how it is keeping her historic character while adapting to so many types of people, Muslim, Jews, secular, Orthodox, Christians, And lots of renovations, lots of innovations, transportation, new places, very, very innovative and modern, yet still very historical. So it's quite interesting to read, a very in-depth magazine all about Jerusalem, just as we're about to celebrate 57 years to the liberation of Jerusalem. For more stories and for more updates, visit us at allisrael.com. Please share this video with your friends, like it if you liked it. Thank you for following us on allisrael.com. This is Rotem Magen for All Israel News.